Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Compete League Open League Europe. You are here for the final Game 5 about to happen. My name is Chase Pathology Patterson, and I am joined by Jesper Benvarmeren Ben. Four huge games coming through here between Dynamic Dudes and Elemonated. But before we get into talking about Game 5, I just want to briefly touch upon some of the activity here that we're having over at Compete League. Just to let you know, all the teams that participated in this tournament are guaranteed spot in the Premier League next season. We're also going to be recruiting more teams for August when the season starts up again. And if you want to sign up for Compete League, you can find us on Facebook at Compete League. You can find us on Twitter at Compete League as well, and at CompeteLeague.com. If you want to play with your friends, you can sign up as a team, or if you are solo and you need to be matched with other players, we can provide that for you too. And one more note is that after later on in the day in North America, the Gold Platinum Premier League is going to be taking place live from Denver, Colorado in the States. So if you're European and you're brave enough to stay awake for that, more credit to you. If you're tuning in from North America, then you should definitely stick around or rather come back around when that event starts up a little later in the day. Now, with that having been said, let's talk, Ben. Let's talk quickly about what we just saw there in Game 4, because it looked like it was going so well for Dynamic Dudes until we hit that 35-minute mark and just everything just turned around.
Well, we saw a ticking time bomb come out and destroy the side of Dynamic Dudes. I mean, they, as you said, were looking really great, and then they just gave so much time, so many resources over to the side of Elemonated, and especially the mid laner were playing Lux. I'm pretty sure he didn't even die one time, and he just turtled this game so well.
Yeah, I mean, we have to give it up to Tarekio, doing so much damage on that Lux. We said close to 57k, I believe, damage Delta champions. And then, I mean, he was that long range. I mean, the long range, the huge damage that it turns out exactly what his team needed. Onions could go in, could dive the back line on that Jax, the late game Jax at that. I mean, the Dynamic Dudes let it get to that point that there was a late game Jax that they had to deal with. Despite the early advantages that Shingu had on that Trundle, there was nothing that they had nothing in their kit in order to be able to counter that. And I mean, I think this begs the question: who are we going to see banned now? Like, is a Vladimir or a Swain or any of those like huge power picks in this meta going to come through, or are we going to see more targeted bans like the Aurelia, like the Morgana, like all these other picks, or like the Fizz that we saw at a Shingu earlier in the day? Like, what can happen here?
Well, everything's open. My God. Well. Let's just go down on the side that Elemonated. Let's go down on the composition that they had in the last game, because they had Jax. He had a rough early game. He had a little bit of mid game, and he had an amazing late game. You had Masayi, and he did terrible in the early game and the mid game, and he came back late. You definitely don't want to give Tarekio a Lux again. Ashe did okay throughout the whole game. Then you had Braum, but basically the three first picks, you can't ban out all of them, because then Swain and Vladimir and Talia will go through. So what are you going to do at this point? Because let's say for Dynamic Dudes, the best thing that they possibly could do is to just draft something that they are comfortable with, especially because we are in the 5th game, but also because they need to end this game early. If they make the same mistake of just dragging this game out, well, then the game's over and you will have lost the finals.
Indeed, and we're seeing Schottenklinge has been swapped out for Croxa here from Dynamic Dudes. Interesting to see that infamous Victor player from Game 1 and Game 2 is brought back in off the back of that win and then loss for Schottenklinge. And we're gonna have to see what comes of that. Shingu's Fizz banned away there by Elemonated right after a Swain ban, pretty standard coming out of Dynamic Dudes. Interesting to see. And the Lux ban, the respect ban for Tarekio, great move. Gotta had to ban that away, and Aurelia being banned away as well, so meaning that no one's gonna get to play that balanced champion this time around.
Obviously, you don't want to give that Lux over to Rachel. He dealt nearly 57k damage in the last game. You don't want to give it up. He really shows some good abilities on that. And again, Aurelia also being banned out. You don't want to give that up. Now, first pick is open. You could perhaps take away the Braum, but Jax is also really smart in my opinion.
Yeah, that Jax quickly picked up, but that does leave Poppy open for Onions, and we've seen what Onions can do on that champion. Never too shy rather for a cheeky flank that Yordle is, and we're just waiting to see. I mean, if he locks that one in, which I get the impression he would. However, what could Darkridge pick up for himself here?
Well, Gragas? Yeah, why not? I feel like Gragas would do okay, because at this point you have Poppy, and she's going to do well against Jax. Well, she's not going to be winning the lane, but she's not going to be losing the lane either. And if you just get Gragas, then you have a reliable ganker, and therefore you can also pick some strong laners in mid lane, or even in bottom lane. Or you could just help your top lane. So I feel like Gragas is probably one of the best picks at this moment for them, because none of the junglers has really been prioritizing these early game junglers. So Gragas time still being open. Is Ruffy going to go for that? I'm not quite sure. Maybe Elise, which is his third most played champion, could come out.
Five games on Rek'Sai? Could we see it happen, or is he going to switch it up here? Bring in something a little different, or is he going to pick something else entirely and leave that jungle pick until later? Oh no, I think you called it. We might be seeing the late Elise lock in here, as Croxa hasn't decided on anything yet, and there he goes for the victor. Standard pick for him. I mean, and so far, surprisingly, both teams picking right in lane order.
Yeah, well, as you said, standard pick coming out from Croxa. We have only seen him play the victor. One game with good success, one game with a little bit less success. So that is going to be interesting to see whether or not that'll work. And I'm looking forward to seeing Ruffy on Elise, because that brings more early game punch. You're going to be AP this time. You're not going to be a frontliner. So that's going to be very interesting to see whether or not he'll make that work, because you have two strong laners you can visit now in ganking.
Yeah, and we see the Ziggs pickup from Trickio, definitely not a standard pick in this meta at all, but kind of mimicking exactly what Deluxe was doing earlier in the game. Long range damage, huge damage coming out as long as he can keep his CS up, and gets quite a bit of mobility as well, just enough to survive in the lane if he gets ganked by that Elise. So if he can manage to get his explosive charge off in time, he'll be able to smoothly sail away coming gank. We're also seeing a Morgana hover here for Killerage. Could be picking that up. It was pretty successful for him earlier, and we do see Phantom of Justice picking up the Braum again as well. Phantom of Justice, who did quite well on the Braum earlier, and who could be negated by that Morgana pick. However, I doubt we're going to see a Jinx pick up unless Molly has something different in mind in the situation. He's going to pick that up.
I like that Jinx being picked up, because now with Jinx being picked up, you have that black shield to protect you, and you have some late game damage as well coming out from Jinx. And that black shield is also going to be so huge against all of the CC that is in the side of Elemonated. So Morgana is so huge. And Jinx, I'm a fan. I must say, I am a fan.
And we'll have to see whether or not Money for Fun picks up the Ashade again, or it could be something different entirely. The Tristana would be a pretty good pickup. Does very, very effective at taking down those turrets, and we're going to see Money for Fun picking up the Tristana. Okay. So, I mean, where do we go now? What even? I mean, okay. So let's just walk through this real quick. This bottom lane to start with. Money for Fun on the Tristana with the Phantom of Justice on that, using that Braum. Molly and Killerage on Jinx and Morgana. Are we going to see lane swaps here? Are we going to see standard lanes. What are these two teams like? What are these two bottom lanes looking for here?
You know what we're going to be seeing? We're going to be seeing Goomba Stomps coming out from Money for Fun. That Tristana is picked to jump straight onto Jinx and just lock her down. There's nothing else that she's there for. Yes, you can fight against Jinx, but she's mainly there to be kind of an engager onto Jinx, lock her down, and the Dark Binding. If you don't land it, then the slow coming out from the rocket jump is going to be so effective from Tristana. But we're not going to be seeing lane swaps. We should not be seeing that because Killer Age has shown that he's good on most support, so I trust that he is good enough to also utilize that Black Shield well enough and make sure that Molly is never going to be in any trouble in the bottom lane.
Now, I'm also interested to see what Shingu does with this Jax, because this seems like the thing that I can sort of see about their team comp here on the side of Dynamic Dudes on the blue side is that they don't necessarily have the tools to follow a Jax into the backline unless they sort of roll through the rest of Eliminated. So do you think we'll be seeing Shingu on more of a split pushing role, or emphasizing the split pushing role more than Onions was in the previous game?
I'd like to say that Shingo will be going into a 4-1 push, where he's going to be that split pusher. But I've said this before in this Best of 5 series, and when have teams ever done whatever I said? I've said it before, that they have that split push and they would be so good in a 4-1 split push, and they just haven't done so. But yes, Shingo will be pushing, and Shingo will also be looking at picking up the Rift Hilt. That would help him a lot. It would help him survive against Onions. It would give him more damage. It would even help him push with the minions. So Rift Hilt is definitely something we have to look out for. And Elise is pretty good at picking up Rift Hilts as well. So for Shingo, Rift Hilt is going to be one of the main objectives to get in this game.
All right, and let's touch upon the Victor versus Ziggs mid lane here real quick as well. Ziggs is not a typical pick that we see coming out these days. Definitely a bit off kilter. Is this going to throw Croxa off for a loop here, or is this something that's very manageable for Victor? Like, what are both of their objectives here in the first 10 minutes of the game?
It shouldn't really throw Croxa off of his loop. It is a 6 after all. It's all about dodging his bombs and just surviving with him pushing in. And like in game 3 it was, where Anivia was picked into Morgana, it is all about farming in that lane, because they all have so much wave pushing potential that they just want to keep shoving, and try to get a lead in that way. And that means that mid lane will basically just be frozen in time, and we won't see the mid laners really help their team in any way, unless they get really close to the mid, that is.
All right, well, we're just going to be loading into game in just a few seconds here. You are watching the season final of Compete League's Open League Europe here between the Dynamic Dudes on the blue side and Elemonated on the red side. We'll remind you of the roster right about now. Dynamic Dudes, Shingu in the top lane with the Jax. We also have...
They haven't loaded for me either yet.
No, this is... there we go. Ruffy in the jungle, therefore, on the Elise. Croxa on the Victor. Molly on the Jinx, and Killeridge on the victorious Morgana.
And on the red side, we have Poppy being played by Onions. Gragas is playing... Darkness is playing Gragas. Turekyo is playing that Pool Party 6 here in the Summer Heat. Money for Fun and Phantom of Justice are playing respectively Tristana and Brom.
Yeah, and we're just going to be loading here in a few seconds, and I wonder if we're going to see any cheeky invades coming in from either of these teams. It would be a very big risk to take, but it could also yield some pretty strong advantages if they could pull it off.
True
But
that, man.
I imagine they'll be playing safe though, for the first few minutes.
Yeah, it's exciting that because, as you said, it could yield some great advantages, but it's a high risk, high reward action, and if you screw up the invade, then you are falling behind in the last game of a best of 5 series, and we all saw how that went in game 1. Oh, actually, invade coming. Onion's just going to be spotted by the ward.
Yeah, it looks like Eliminated in this situation are not too afraid to assert their dominance over the bottom side of the map. They want to be able to try and get in there and try and disrupt the actions of dynamic dudes here. Could be seeing a little bit more a little bit action on the side, but it looks like Onions and Terrakio are going to move back towards that mid lane. Stay safe.
Just stay safe for now. There's no real reason to go in and do some overly aggressive action at this point. Just play it safe, make sure that you won't fall too far behind, and then you can look at surviving the laning phase, which is the most important thing for both teams at this point. And top lane is going to be so contested, and the bottom lane is also going to be such a hot place, because if Jinx doesn't survive through the laning phase, then you have to rely on Xingqiu, and you have to wait for Molly to be in a position to do anything, and that is going to take quite some time.
Well, so if I mean, I guess that's kind of their insurance. Therefore, for the dynamic dudes, if they manage to make it all the way to the late game, just like Eliminated did last time over, they do have some very hard carries that can help them through that phase of the game.
Yeah, they do, and Jinx is probably one of the best carries you could get to help you through the late game. But you have to get there first, and against someone like Tristana, first off, she has a attack speed steroid, so she will be able to proc Brom's passive concussive blows really fast, and if you manage to survive through that, Tristana is going to be pushing all the time, and in a gank coming from Dark Witch could be so.
Oh, Onion's taking so much damage from Xingqiu. Huge amounts of damage, and both are chugging corruption potions to try and get their health back up, but Onion's not off to a good start there. Is forcing us behind and almost a couple of hits away from dead there.
Yeah, well, Xingqiu, we haven't seen him play Jax before, but it is a bit of the same principles as a Fizz, and he already shows that he knows how to put out damage as a Jax.
Indeed he does, and we see this bottom lane so far fairly even. And as, like you said, the mid lane a bit of a snoozer so far. Both junglers making their way to the top lane, however, going to try and get something going for their teammates.
Yeah, well, at this point, it should be Ralphie that has to be really snowballing this game. He is an Elise, and Elise is that snowbally jungler. AP has so much damage in her kit as well, and once she gets the AP item in the jungle, she is going to have such a huge power spike that she could perhaps start to really just pull this game out of control.
Indeed, she could, and it's going to be up to her to see, bring the advantages in for her teammates. So we see Darkridge now. It's trying to set up for a gank in the mid lane, but Ruffy is there as well to try and ward off. They do not, and they're going right into it. Darkridge gets cocooned. Could have been in a lot of trouble, but he will decide to walk away, say, "I am fat, and you cannot kill me."
Too much fat for the side of dynamic dudes to get through. But when Ralphie gets his runic echoes, that is such a huge power spike, and if he can get a kill on his way there, then he's going to get that power spike faster, and that could perhaps be the bottom lane.
It could be the bottom lane indeed. There comes Ruffy, the cocoon hits Phantom of Justice despite the Unbreakable being up. Looks like, oh, he will get away, but just barely. As Shingu and Onions continuing to trade up in the top lane. The Onion's doing a much better job at farming than Shingu is right now.
Well, Shingu is at least putting out more damage.
Oh, Onion's in so much trouble. Phantom of Justice, though, as well taken down very low. And then Shingu is chasing. He does not manage to get the extra auto attack needed. He would have gone down. So close for Shingu there. Playing with fire.
Definitely playing with fire. And now Shingo, yes, he is behind 5 CS, but he has so much pressure and so much momentum going for him with all the damage that he's able to put out. Onions has to also be very careful. I know Onions plays a lot of Poppy, and he probably has played this matchup before, but he's playing on a knife's edge at this moment, and that could tip over very fast.
Indeed it could, and we see Phantom Justice taking a lot of hits down in this bottom lane as well. Money for Fun staying ahead, staying even in CS, but I mean, it could be one more Elise gank before we see Phantom Justice biting the dust. He's gonna have to be very careful. He keeps eating those, just those right there, the hits from Molly, and taking hits after that, meaning that he's putting himself at a bit of a disadvantage.
Now, as you said, Ruffy could perhaps come back to the bottom lane to try and make Phantom of Justice bite the dust, or he could just eat crap.
Oh, yeah. Ruffy could have been a very dangerous situation for him, but manages to get away just in time. A bit of time wasted there for both, for all three of both Onions, Darkridge, and Terrakio.
Well, the first dragon is a mountain drake, and both teams would love to get this dragon. It's very standard teamfight compositions coming out from both teams, so whatever they could get out of the dragon would be beneficial for them. Now, Darkridge is in the top lane, so we could perhaps see some synergy coming out of Onions and Darkridge.
Here comes Darkridge. Shingu goes in, but he gets stunned up. He gets knocked up as well by Onions, and he will be going down. First blood goes to Onions. 7 minutes in the game.
And that is not very good for the side of the Dynamic Dudes. They want to be the ones that are in the driving seat. They had the chance to close out this series and have not been able to grab that chance and finish it off. So now it must be mentally starving for them to know that they now are behind 1k gold.
Difficult situation for them indeed. Another zap goes out, and another time that Phantom of Justice is using that Unbreakable to shield Money for Fun. And so far, I mean, Darkridge has had a lot more impact on that Gragas than Ruffy has been able to have on his Elise. And I mean, Ruffy just kind of needs to wake up and kind of needs to make a gank happen here. He's been able to gank before, but without getting anything significant out of any of Elemonated so far.
And now we can actually see that talking about Ruffy, he has gone for Bami's Cinder, so he wants to be the front line, optimizing more for teamfights. Understandable, as you don't really have a front line in anyone else. Perhaps Jax could be considered a front line,
yeah.
But it just takes down that potential ganking threat coming out of Ruffy, and he's just going to be a cocoon bot in the end of Shingu taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, Shingu not in the best of shape right now. As we saw a potential gank in the mid lane that turned to not. Shingu looks like he's going to roam a little bit. Going to try and perhaps get onto that Rift Herald. Another 10 minutes before it's replaced, but it is replaced by the Baron. He's going to spot that pink ward, take it for himself. Crux is coming over for his blue buff. And that does not look like Ziggs is going to be able to steal that away. A couple seconds too late, but Ziggs is also doing a pretty decent job of keeping up with the Victor, as one does. Although Shingu, though, gotta feel bad for him taking so much damage here from Onions. And Onions sends him into the wall, and one more hit and he goes down. Onions showing his utter dominance on that champion.
Yeah, Onions really shows that he knows how to play the Poppy, and this is a very strong, a bad trend for the side of Dynamic Dudes. If they lose their top laner, Jax, if he falls too far behind, then they will lose a lot of damage and they will just end up falling kind of flat in team fights and in the split push game. And even if they get into team fights, Xingqiu, he's going to be so starved because he doesn't have any damage coming out from his Trinity Force, because that is so delayed at this point.
A worrying trend, perhaps.
Indeed.
Indeed, a worrying trend. So we'll see. We'll see if Xingqiu can come back. A bit of a shame that he's being denied so hard right now. That Jax could come online a little later. We did see Onions make it work for him later in the game, in the previous game. Although now we're going to see Darkridge pursuing Crox's Victor throughout his own jungle. Crox was forced to flash away as Darkridge came in. Darkridge also applying pressure here onto the south side of Dynamic Dudes' jungle as he stops Ruffy from taking away a red buff, I believe.
Stops Ruffy from taking away the red buff, indeed. And now, the thing is in this game that for the first time, as far as I can remember, in any game except game 2, it is Elemonated who are in the lead here in the early game, and they are in advantage. Now Xingqiu is in a lot of trouble.
In so much trouble. Ruffy's coming in for the backup, and Onions is going to take that Cocoon in the end, but that could have been very dangerous. If only Torikio had a little bit more mana, he could have gone a little bit more aggressive onto Jax there.
Well, Onions now has his Iceborne Gauntlet, so again another item that will stop Xingqiu in his path to becoming a late game monster. You cannot simply deal with the armor coming out there. Even the damage is going to be overwhelming. And just imagine when Onions, when he gets a if he goes, of course, for Ninja Tabis, then the Xingqiu is truly lost.
Oh, Xingqiu gets set into the wall once again. And the ultimate, it looks like, oh no, he flashes away just in time, and Onions will not be able to finish him off. That was a very, very close call.
A very close call indeed, but he's being forced away, and now he loses even more farm. He may have to use his teleport.
Oh, but Crox in a ton of trouble. Just manages to avoid the zigzag, but that's not enough. He goes down to Darkridge in the end. Ruffy now forced to flash away, and that's going to be, I believe, a Mountain Drake going over to the side of Elemonated, who are off to a great start here at 12 minutes.
A very great start indeed, and now with Elemonated being this far ahead, I mean, they have the momentum going for them. The pressure is on Dynamic Dudes, and they haven't had this much pressure on them for a lot of games. Basically, they have always been ahead except for one game, and it feels like they may be slightly tilting from last game. And now Onions again.
Oh, Onion's always getting the better of these trades. I mean, even when Xingqiu decides that he wants to go in himself, he always just keeps getting. I mean, it's not like they're bad trades inherently. It's just that Xingqiu is just, I mean, just far behind now when it comes to his power relation with Onions. However, Molly getting Molly getting 2 kills. Finally, something positive here happening for Dynamic Dudes as one of their lanes is doing pretty well now.
Exactly. Finally, something positive happening, and it couldn't be better. Well, of course, if Molly had gotten the 2 kills, it would have been amazing. But just 1 kill onto Molly means so much, and now she can go back and spend all the gold that she has, because she has around 2k gold, which is so huge. She could get a seal, or she could get even closer to finishing up her Infinity. However, Crox is in the top lane.
Yeah, Onion's reading that really, really well, not able, disabling Xingqiu and Croxa from getting any kill. Torikio, though, also reads Ruffy coming in, takes him down to about half health, and Ruffy's in a bit of a tough situation now.
More Croxa is coming back to the mid lane, and we've seen, as far as I would say, 1 good game from Croxa on his Victor. I don't feel like his 2 games that we have seen on Victor, his 3 games, one of them had been impressive, and then the second 2 has just been very lackluster in my opinion. Now he's falling behind in farm. He doesn't have his his laser augmented because he wants to go for the siphon power instead. He just values getting movement speed higher, and I don't agree with this because you are against 6. You need to be able to compare the pushing power, and you're not getting that from the siphon power.
Oh, Onion's saving his own life with his ultimate there. And I think that what we're seeing here at the same time is the curse of the low wave clear. I mean, Victor is the only champion on the side of a little bit of trouble here. Onions pushes Ruffy into the wall and he will go down very quickly. Shingu eats the Ziggs ultimate. That's going to be a potential assist going over. Flash in from Onions knocks Shingu against the wall, and that'll be Onions' 3rd kill of the game. And once again, like, I mean, the team with the less wave clear is the one that has so as far as where we are at the 16-minute mark is the one with the least chances of winning this game right now.
And the pressure of losing the game is on the side of Dynamic Dudes. They are not the ones in the driving seat. They have no handle of the driving steer, and they are just losing in terms of momentum. They are also losing in terms of goal, and the only shining light for them is Molly at this point. But Jinx alone won't be able to survive against Onions once he finds his way onto the backline in a team fight.
Yeah, difficult situation for them indeed. The only shining light, though, is that bottom lane here for Molly and Killeridge. If they can manage to power up, if they can manage to keep this laning phase going, which has been going pretty much in their favor this entire time, with the conclusion there being those 2 kills that they got a couple minutes ago. If they can keep that shining light going for Dynamic Dudes, that is the hope for the team. If they can turn that into a dragon, if they can turn that into extra advantages, they need to get that steam ship rolling, or that ship sailing.
Dragon is respawning in 1 minute and 40 seconds, and it is going to be an Infernal Drake, the first Drake being a Mountain Drake. It basically couldn't be better for the side of Elemonated in terms of dragons, because Infernal Drakes don't matter that much in the early game as it is bonus AD and AP, whereas a Mountain Drake is so much better at picking up towers and then allowing you to get items for that extra AD and AP. So if they can get this Infernal Drake, then their path to victory is going to be better and more clearer.
Better indeed. It'll be interesting to see where these teams put the pressure on next. Certainly looks like Phantom of Justice and More Money for Fun are looking to finish off that bottom lane tier 1 turret. In the meantime, Onion's just playing hooky, just being a nuisance to Shingu's life right now, sitting a comfortable just above 35 CS ahead.
Yeah, and Shingo finally were able to finish up his Trinity Force, but compare that to the 2 items of Onions, which is a Frozen Heart and an Iceborne Gauntlet. Basically, Onions is such a huge part of Elemonated's team composition at this point, that just with him being in the front line, nobody can touch him, nobody can deal with him. Now he's going to the top side. Shingo, you have to run, man.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just the story of Onions, the man with the poppy plan. He's shown his ability on this champion time and time again throughout the season, and I mean, it's coming out, peachy for him right now. Although Dark Ridge in a bit of a misposition there. Ruffy and Killeridge CCing him down. Ruffy, though, forced to use his repel to get out of the way, but that's a huge ultimate from Ziggs that's coming down, and Money for Fun's finally going to get the kill onto Killeridge with the explosion. And what a... Oh, Croxa coming in from the side, but he's going to get belly flop there by Dark Ridge. Tries to use the Chaos Storm to deal some damage, but no, Dark Ridge is going to make it out just in time. Rift Herald has returned to the Void, and oh, the ultimate, the chompers from downtown. Thanks to Molly. Thank you so much. The Super Mega Death Rocket, rather, from downtown. Molly picking up her 2nd kill of the game.
And you know what? I feel like Onions has improved his. Oh wait, actually, Ruff is in top lane.
Yeah, but Ruffy gets knocked away, and Shingu now trying to take the fight to Onions, but Onions can answer right back. Is he? I mean, like, look at this man. Like, he's no fear whatsoever. He's probably gonna get a kill. Yeah, he will get the kill onto Croxa before finally being shut down. And the kill on top of all that goes over to Ruffy, who's not necessarily the person who needed the gold right now.
But they will lose a dragon for that one kill, and that is not a good trade for you at all. Especially now that it is an infernal drake. That
and
not a good
and the taunt from Onions in all chat, who says #worth. I mean, at your own discretion, good sir, but quite potentially, yes. Oh, money for fun though, and Phantom Justice both in a lot of trouble as Molly's flashes forward, heals forward as well.
Molly.
But Molly, what are you doing? No, don't go, don't do it. He's gonna get slowed by Darkridge as well. The greed once again working against Dynamic Dudes here as Darkridge picks up his third kill of the game.
Molly had ult. What the hell, Molly? You could have used your super mega depth rocket and picked up one kill there. But you didn't, and now you gave up another kill. You will lose a tower for that, and you will just put your team even further behind in terms of gold, now being behind around 6k gold. This is looking so grim for Dynamic Dudes.
I mean, not to mention the fact that he also blew 2 summoners before dying.
Yeah,
Giving him
so,
no 0 summoners to be able to get out of dying.
and that even opens up for reganks coming in. It opens up for him getting hit by a body slam from Darkridge or an explosive cask. That it just puts him in so much danger. And again, Onions is being such a huge pain in the top lane with all his split pushing. And I feel like Onions, in the first game we saw his Poppy, didn't do that well. But now that we see him in this game, it looks like he has kind of got his skin peeled off, kind of like an onion, and he's become better inside.
You know, it takes a little time for the Onion to really become one with himself, to really reveal his inner player, to you know, there's several layers, and under each layer a different level of play. However, Croxa showing his level of play and taking down, dispatching money for fun in no time flat. A red turret goes down in the bottom lane as well. So Molly and Killeridge getting a little bit back, but here we see a 3-man push onto the top side. Tier 2 turret going to be going down very quickly there.
Exactly, the word layer was the one I was looking for, but I just couldn't remember it. However, now Dynamic Dudes, they're pushing in the bottom lane. This looks good for them. If they can just stop the backs from Elemonated, then they can at least get a few hits onto the tower. Maybe even pick it up and get some gold back.
Oh, Onion says, yeah, sure, I'll take a cocoon, but then I'm going to come at you with a hammer as well. Darkridge, in the meantime, hitting up Shingu there in the jungle. It looks like Darkridge is actually almost getting the better of this trade. So far ahead with those 3-1-1 scoreline. Zig's ultimate knock up, go Darkridge. She flashes forward and manages to get the kill with the empowered auto attack. That's huge. But in the meantime, Killeridge and Molly are doing so much damage to this bottom lane. They're going to be able to take the inhibitor turret. I believe that's going to be the first of the game. Really great push on their side to really bring their team back into this. That they're probably not going to be sticking around as they realize that Onions is back in the midst and going to try and push them away. But Tereke was also in a bit of trouble as he manages to dodge the gravity field, but is not able to dodge the Chaos Storm, and he will go down to Croxa. And just like that, Dynamic Dudes seem to be back in this.
Yeah, really smart by Dynamic Dudes to get that inhibitor in the inhibitor tower in the bottom lane and get a few kills as well. That really helps them with getting back into the game. Now they just have to use all of the gold that they got in a constructive manner. And if they can do so, yes, then they will be getting back into the game. And I feel like Jingu, yes, you don't have 4 kills, but at least you're getting farm. Molly is in such a good position at this moment as well, as that if you team fight with her, she's going to be dealing so much damage that really Shingu doesn't need to do anything except to just split push. You don't have any damage, so don't join team fights.
Yeah, difficult. And so I think the real question that we have to ask ourselves here is, where does Dynamic Dudes go for this? So they're back into this game. They're back into the swing of things. At 25 minutes, things seem pretty even, aside from Shingu being a little bit behind and not necessarily able to keep up with Onions in a 1v1. But that put aside, I mean, what does Dynamic Dudes need to do? How do they leverage their advantages here? Although, Shingu takes so much damage. Money for Fun dispatches him very quickly.
Well, imagine the top lane if Shingu actually had his block, his counter strike. If he had that, then I think Money for Fun would have died, because Shingu actually put out a lot of damage onto Money for Fun. But well, in the end he goes down, but he gets a tower, so that's good enough. Now
Molly in so much trouble. Tarekyo takes him down. I definitely thought that it was Poppy taking him down, but it looks like Onions is going after Croxa now. Phantom of Justice help comes to his help as well, but Croxa could be saved by his gravity field, as Tarekyo now is going to apply pressure to this mid lane along with Money for Fun. Ruffy in the meantime and Croxa are kept out of their base. They are not able to back, they're not able to do anything. Onions doing so much damage. Croxa forced to pop the barrier, but that's a mid lane inhibitor turret going down in favor of Elemonated. And Croxa is doing as much as he can in order to stay alive, but Onions is gonna... No, it's gonna be Phantom of Justice dealing the death blow. The Ziggs ultimate coming down onto Ruffy. Ruffy is so close to dying. That Braum Q, the passive, is gonna help him die in the end. And now Money for Fun and the rest of Elemonated, a 5-man grouping in this bottom lane, and they're gonna try and keep pushing this in after taking that inhibitor.
taking the inhibitor indeed, and now Elemonated. They look down for a few times, but now Molly has just been focused again and again and again, and they are starting to lose the game. And here comes Shingo, but
there's Shingo. He has a counter strike this time, but he cannot get it done. The explosive charge is on him, and he will go down. Money for Fun netting his 3rd kill of the game now, and there's all so low. Look at how low Eliminated are, but they are able to get away because no one can finish the job on the side of Dynamic Dudes.
Yes, and Dynamic Dudes, you cannot go in there. I mean, yes, you have to try some desperate measures, but Shingo, you're too squishy to jump into the team at this point. You have a Trinity Force and you have a Hextech Gunblade. You need at least a Vandals or a Guardian Angel to, or maybe even an Iceborne Gun, just to be able to jump into the enemy team. Start split pushing again. There's nothing else Shingo can do, and Molly just have to try and wave clear alongside Croxa. That is basically the only thing the Dynamic Dudes has in their pocket at the moment.
Indeed it is. I mean, what's the next move here for... If you're Eliminated right now, you know that you need to close this game out. You were just on the beneficial receiving end of the existence of a late game Jax. You know what is ahead for you if you don't close out this game soon, despite your significant advantage. What are the next steps in order for them to close this one out?
I'd say do what they have been do what you have been doing all the time. Just continue fighting. The dream would be to get the Baron, but Dynamic Dudes have the vision advantage right there. So if you can just push up your side lanes and actually group up, then you are that strong. Shingu taking damage again.
Yeah, Shingu and Onions in the battle of the ages, but it looks like Ruffy is there to help out Shingu as well, but Onions is just so far ahead that he can do huge amounts of damage to both of them. In the meantime, there is a Baron fight almost breaking up. It looks like Eliminated are just looking to clear away some vision, much to Killer Ridge's chagrin. And Onions is trying to chase, but it looks like he's pushed up a little bit far, but he's going to shove Ruffy away. But now he also has to deal with Croxa. He manages to dash to Croxa in order to get away. It looks like he could pull this one off. Is he going to be able to make it over? But in the meantime, his team is taking down Baron Nashor. And now Shingu is finally going to take down Onions, but this is a huge advantage that is now in the hands of Eliminated. All they have to do is pressure one lane, and given how far ahead they are, they could actually probably make this happen in a 4v5 situation.
That is not worth at all, because now you just gave a team that is so far ahead the ability to crack open your base, and this could very well be the death blow for Dynamic Dudes, because yes, Molly and Croxa, they have wave clear, but against super minions, I don't think so.
Yeah, difficult situation for them indeed. And I mean, if you're dynamic dudes at this point, all you can really hope for is to wait this one out, try to wait for the next Baron, and I mean, it's a pretty desperate move, but it's the one that they're going to have to make. I mean, what other comeback options do they have at this point?
Well, yeah, as you said, wait for the next Baron. You have to not snowball, turtle this game, and you do that by waiting, being patient, and just wave clearing all the time. That is the way to turtle, and well, I'm not quite sure that against super minions, Dynamic Dudes will be able to do so.
Yeah. However, Dynamics is spotting out that there's a 4-man push happening in their bot lane. They're going to try and set up and keep this onslaught away from their inhibitor turret, but not an easy thing to do with the huge advantage provided by the Baron. And the long range distance and the wave clear from Ziggs is just way too strong right now. There will be an inhibitor in the mid lane respawning soon, but in the meantime, Onions is also pushing up that top lane. I mean, this is an extremely difficult situation for Dynamic Dudes. They're going to try and get a flank off with the Jax. Doesn't look like, no, they have just enough vision on the side of Elemonated to see him coming, but it depends, not exactly sure just for how long. In the meantime, they have to, Dynamic Dudes cannot wait this out. They have to send someone top lane in order to deal with Onions, but who can deal with Onions? There's the real question.
It has to be Shingu, because you cannot take away Croxa and Molly. They're actually doing a fine job of waiting here, but they are still going to be losing a lot of damage onto the tower once Elemonated are able to get onto there. But Shingu has to go and deal with Onions, and with them splitting the team up, that could be great.
Onions coming in on the backside. There's the inhibitor turret going down. Dynamic have to be very, very careful. Onions is now in the base as well. He can do so much damage to this team if he is given the opportunity, and it looks like Elemonated are going to be transitioning over. The rotate goes onto the inhibitor turret, mid lane inhibitor surgery, and they have a wave crashing in to the top lane as well. And they're phoning this one in. They're not only are they playing safe, but they're playing really, really smart too.
Exactly, playing it really smart. Now, if they get the last inhibitor, that's going to be 2 super minions spawning with each wave in each lane. And that doesn't look too far out, and again, Coup de Grace is about to come out.
Oh, Shingu is gonna go down. Ziggs gets the kill onto him, and this could be the end of the game. Could be the end of times. Ruffy is forced to flash away in order to save his own life, but Killerage is not gonna be the man in order to wave clear anymore. He's gonna get the Dark Binding onto Phantom Justice, but this is the third inhibitor going down, and this could be Elemonated taking the finals. Phantom Justice will go down to Molly, so he gets excited and he's going to be able to keep going, maybe, but only for the wave clear. And you have to wonder, are the Dynamic Dudes going to... No, it looks like they are going to survive for a little bit longer as Elemonated set their sights on the Elder Drake.
Well, there is no reason for them
to... No, sorry, the Infernal Drake, I'm sorry. Not even time for the Elder Drake yet.
Yeah, but there's really no reason for them to overstay their welcome in Dynamic Dude's space. You can just go back, you have a lot of gold in your pocket, spend that, then go into the mid lane, because minions are going to be pressuring anyways, so there's literally no rush on them right now.
Okay, I think we all... Sorry, I misspoke there. That was the Mountain Drake, and that was Elemonated's third Mountain Drake. They have so much damage on structures right now. They barely have to like sneeze on these Nexus turrets for them to go down.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine Tristana with an explosive charge onto a tower. A fully blown explosive charge is just going to turn the tower over and kill it really, really fast.
Yeah, and I mean, this is do or die for Dynamic Dudes. If they have any chance of getting back into this game, they need to make something happen right now. But they have so little at their disposal. They can try to set up a defense, but I mean, this is a very difficult spot they're in right now.
That is indeed a very difficult spot, and if they are going to be able to get away from it, it is going to be so huge. But even if they get a few kills at this point in the game, what are you going to do? Because you need to wait for the inhibitors to respawn, because minions will keep pushing into your base, and at the moment your base is just getting flooded.
Flooded indeed, flooded with minions, flooded with pain, as they're doing everything they can to try and repel these waves, but there's so little wave clear on the side of Dynamic Dudes. Shingu goes in, but Shingu is forced to flash out almost immediately as he takes a ton of damage, and that's one inhibitor turret. I didn't even see it go by. This could be the very end of the game at 35 minutes and 30 seconds. As Elemonated press on, one kill for Onions, and could be another kill. No, it goes over to Darkridge as Elemonated team is just crushing a 4-0, and they will win the European Compete League final after a compelling 5-game series.
That is the second seeded team winning over the first seeded team in this grand final. Such an amazing showing coming out of Elemonated. They had a really good game 5 after just pulling back in game 4, where they had a lot of trouble in the early game but ended up playing that late game team fight, and then team fight composition, and here they just dominated the game all through and ended up picking up the victory and the grand final.
I mean, and I think the very first time that I cast the Elemonated, I remember that they came in a little bit later in the season, and they showed such great potential that they were not afraid to pick up little team comps that were a little different, and not afraid to rely on Onions, both for leadership and for his extreme skill on that Poppy. And I can't help but feel that was a huge mistake on the side of Dynamic Dudes to not ban that away. They banned it away for a couple of games, and those games went pretty well, aside from the Jax game that we saw Elemonated take over. I mean, Onions is just known for that champion. At this level of play, you think of Poppy and you immediately think of Onions as one of those players in our league that plays that champion. And we saw how much work that did for Elemonated in this game. At the same time, I think we also have to give a huge shout out to Reikio for really pulling his britches up over the course of this entire series, and dealing, the most damage, I believe, of anyone else in this game, nearing in on 27,000.
Indeed, he was just such a huge part of this victory for Elemonated, and now that means that they can be happy. And as you said earlier, before we went into game 5, they will automatically be a part of next season's Compete League. So, well, I'm looking forward to seeing them next season as well.
I certainly am as well. And just a huge congratulations over to Elemonated, Onions, Reikio, Darkridge, Money for Fun, and Phantom of Justice on their win in the European Open League final. And I think that there's nothing left to say except thank you very much to all of you for watching, and a reminder that the North American Gold and Platinum League finals will be going on later today live from Denver.